I'm always trying to improve my knife making techniques, and lately I've been doing a lot of experimentation to try to really nail down my Damascus etching process. And I think I've finally come up with a really good technique that I like, which is a combination of ferric chloride acid and instant coffee. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys my process and show you how I do it. Here are two knives that I recently finished up using this technique. And I really love the super high contrast blade finish it gives, because the light, higher nickel content steels have a really bright shine, and then the higher carbon content steels have really nice darkness. While I was experimenting with this method, I went ahead and re-etched the San Mai Damascus chef's knife that I made for my mom, and that turned out really awesome too. All you're going to need to do this etching setup is some ferric chloride acid, some Nescafe Classico instant coffee, some 2000 grit sandpaper, and then some baking soda or other neutralizing solution. I've already made a video showing my etching setup with ferric chloride, so I'll go ahead and link that somewhere up here. And now I'm going to go ahead and use this plastic bucket and brew up a batch of instant coffee. The basic premise behind the coffee etching is that the high acidity of the instant coffee will be able to etch some of the alloys of steel in the Damascus mix, but not others, and then that'll leave you a lot of contrast. So I'm just going to do a really strong batch of the instant coffee. So I'm going to add about half of this container. And so you're not going to want to drink this, but it will be good for the knives. Now I'm going to go ahead and boil some water and get that going. If anyone's wanting to be super exact, I'm doing 100 grams of the instant coffee. Now time to boil. And they say a watched pot never boils. Now it's time to just pour the hot water over the instant coffee. And I'm going to make sure I have it up to at least around like 2 or 3 inches high, just because that's the max height of most of the blades that I make. And now just give it a stir to make sure all the coffee dissolves. I ended up using just under 2 liters of water for the 100 grams of coffee. Now that my instant coffee bath is ready, I'm going to head out into the shop and find something Damascus to grind to test it out. I have this nice little slim EDC drop point and some low layer Damascus, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the finish grind on it so that it's ready for etching. Here's the blade polished up to a 400 grit cork belt loaded with some green compound. So now I'm going to go ahead and etch it in my ferric chloride acid. The ferric chloride is a really powerful etchant, and it's going to give me a deep etch. So I'm going to leave it in there for around 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'm going to polish it up with my 2000 grit sandpaper. Out of the acid we go. You can see that the steel is totally blackened, so now let's polish it up to see what we got. I've been polishing with my 2000 grit sandpaper for a couple minutes, and now you can clearly see the definition between the 1084 and 15N20 layers, but the depth isn't quite as deep as I'd like, so I'm just going to do one more cycle in the etch. Now that I have a nice deep etch that I can actually even feel a little bit with my fingernail, I'm going to go ahead and slide it into the instant coffee and leave it for probably around 6 or 7 hours or until the blade is super dark. I know some people like to keep their coffee at hot temperatures while they etch their knives, but I'm going to keep mine at room temperature since that's given me the best results so far, and I know some other really good knife makers do that as well. Turns out that if you leave a knife flat on the bottom of your etching container, it'll leave bubbles with the outline of the knife. Who would have thunk it? The knife's been in there around 5 or 6 hours, so let's pull it out and see what it's looking like. Ooh yeah, that's some good contrast. So now let's wash it off and I'll see what it looks like without any coffee on it. Now I'm just going to put the knife into my baking soda and water solution to neutralize the acid from the coffee. At this stage, I've found it important to not use a paper towel to rub and dry the blade off, because that can rub off the black oxides. So what I'm going to do is use my fan and just hang the knife in front of the fan and let it air dry. Now that the blade's finished etching, I'm just going to put on some handles and finish it up and then show you guys the finished product. I'll just put a light coating of oil onto the blade to make sure it doesn't rust. Here's a quick look at the finished etch. I'm in my shop, which doesn't have the best lighting, but tomorrow during the day in the daylight, I'll give you a better look. Here's the knife all finished up. I'm really happy with the high contrast blade finish and how it looks with the marble carbon fiber and white pinstripe inlaid handle. Most of the drop point blades I make have more of a 4-inch blade, whereas this one has just over a 3-inch blade, and I really like this a little bit smaller size for everyday carry. And this, my friends, is how you do the coffee etch. Now like and subscribe, or else I will hit you with my baguette. But seriously, give this coffee etching method a try and let me know how it goes. You might have to alter the recipe a little bit and make the coffee a little bit stronger or weaker, or leave the knife in a little bit longer or shorter, but don't hesitate to send me a message or leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any questions. Stay sharp and I'll see you on the next video.